We're coming to you live from the Johannesburg Expo Center with the 2025 Solar Energy Electric Vehicle Expo. This event brings together industry leaders, innovators, and experts to showcase the latest advancements, solar energy in electric vehicles and sustainable technologies. We got to speak to Jonathan Mphake, the National Fleet Manager, who shared with us his insights on the transformation of the industry.
The part of my talk today was to say there are fundamental core skills that will always remain, but in terms of augmenting or doing things better, the big thing is understanding data. Data is going to be a disruptor for every single sector. The mining of data, not just the acquisition of data, but translating that data into actionable insights that helps you understand your business better, and in most cases helps you understand your customer better. The better you do, the more competitive you are. So for fleet managers, the science of fleet managers, for people in supply chain management in totality, data becomes the new currency that helps in business sustainability. And that is the real issue. We have to understand data from a different element. We have to understand how to interpret the data and get the insights for every segment of the business, because if we do that, we will achieve what we want to do from an ROI perspective, a profitability perspective, and more importantly, sustainability, but also taking care of those people that are in care of us, the business at large, to make sure that the economy still moves forward. So it's vastly important to make sure that we create avenue systems and actually use the power of solar energy, the different types of battery systems and energy management that we have, to make sure that we reduce carbon emissions and CO2 emissions. It's the same thing, but to reduce CO2 emissions. It's important for us, especially as fleet managers, transport owners, people in the supply chain management world, to understand these technologies that are fast coming in and how do we use them to ensure that we take care of the environment. It is no longer a catchphrase. It is no longer something that can be ignored. The United Nations Sustainability Goals push us and remind us that we have to take care of this planet that we have. We have no other planet but the one we have. And our little part in terms of managing energy properly, harvesting the energy from a solar perspective, using the perspective of how do we bring in battery-operated vehicles, battery-augmented vehicles, to make sure we reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. That is the goal, and data analytics helps us, becomes the path and the road we drive on to achieve that formula.
Are we seeing enough truck drivers gaining enough knowledge with regards to the changing and the transformation of the industry? And what can you advise truck drivers in terms of what type of knowledge bases should they be absorbing?
So one of the things that I spoke about today is getting the drivers on board. I think we forget them in the whole equation. We think about profitability, ROI, PBIT. We think about all of these things, HR matters, technology implementation, API integrations. We speak all of this big language about the technology side and about the process side, but we forget the people side. And I think for them, give an example of this transitions at one of the ports in America. I was watching this documentary, and they were talking about how they took some of the personnel that works at the ports to be operators of some of the heavy duty machinery where human beings are not even allowed to be in that particular area, and they are operating the machine. So their knowledge base and IP from that perspective comes in to augment and not destroy or take away their jobs. And the same with the trucks. Depending on our macro and micro environment, economic environment on the continent in South Africa, we're not going to have overnight adoption of autonomous vehicles, for example. There's a lot of infrastructure things that have to be absolutely be in place before we dream of that. But as we transition to EV, autonomy vehicles, more technology, and so on and so forth, the driver's perspective is not destroyed. And again, from a macro and microeconomic perspective, you are still going to have drivers. In that same documentary series, there was a lady who I think she had 25 years trucking experience, and she was driving, and the AI analytics is still not at the type of level that it can be autonomous or that huge amount of truck. There's learnings, and Machine learning comes into it on how do I identify risk, how do we manage it, how do we respond so that the automation becomes helpful. And I think for me, if I could predict it, it's going to go like the aviation industry where you have almost autonomy in most of the planes that are advanced today, but you still have the human element. So I think the 4IR and the technology revolution does not kill all the jobs, but augments them. And for every individual in every sector, in every segment, what we need to do is transition our skills, augment them so that we are future fit.